It's July, but it's not too late to plant from seeds. Hello, everyone. My name is Kim, and you're at Kim's Kozy Corner. I am going to spend a little time talking to you today about the different things I'm starting from seed in the month of July. Yes, I did say July. I am in Southwest Ohio. I am in Zone 6B, and I am still planting things from seed for this season. And so we're going to spend a little time talking about that today. Now, today is July 17th, and my garden is in full swing. I have tomatoes, I have peppers, I have a little bit of everything growing in my garden. But there are a few things that the first round is kind of petering out or is not doing so well. So let's start there. In Southwest Ohio, we have an issue with cucumber beetles. And so it's a bug that comes in and it will decimate your cucumbers. So if you can see there, I have one cucumber plant right there that's decimated and it goes that way. And this is just one of several places in the garden where my cucumbers are just doing so-so. And that's the first vegetable that we're going to talk about today, because some of my cucumber plants are dying and not doing so well. I still have some cucumbers coming in, but not enough to sustain me for the rest of the season. So I am planting more cucumbers. So there are three different types of cucumbers that I am planting. I am planting Space Master 80, which is a bush cucumber. I am replanting my favorite one, which is Wisconsin SMR. Oh, well, let me back up. The Space Master is a 60-day to harvest cucumber. And so my first frost isn't until October. So we have several months still to harvest cucumbers. So I want to make sure I keep that harvest coming. And then for the Wisconsin SMR, it's a 50 to 60-day harvest. So plenty of time to get cucumbers. And this by far is my favorite cucumber. And it is a vining cucumber, but it grows on a very short vine. And then this is one of my Japanese cucumbers that I like to grow. And this one gets massive and it's doing really well over at my neighbor's where I planted it. So I'm planting some more over here. So let me show you what my plan is. So as I've mentioned, this cucumber right here is dying out. But if you look just to the side of it here, all of the rest of the cucumbers in this space is doing really, really well. So no need to replant this space because these cucumbers will take up the difference from this one here that's dying. So just a little over a week ago, I went ahead and I planted that Space Master 80 bush cucumber in these 4 containers right here. And so I did plant them in the month of July, and they are just now starting to come up. They're just getting true leaves, and it's only been about a week because the temperatures are so warm. It took them no time to germinate. I don't even think it took 3 days before they broke the ground, but they're growing very, very nicely in these 4 containers. And since this is a bush cucumbers, they're not going to vine and vine and vine. They're going to stay kind of short and contained. So I use these old-fashioned tomato trellises to put in the pots with the bush cucumbers to kind of just hold them up and hold them together. But those are my bush cucumbers. And now let me show you where I planted my vining cucumbers. In this space right here, in my Vego garden metal raised bed here, in the back here, I had some sugar snap peas, which is a cool season crop. Those peas were done. They were finished. I pulled them out. And now let me show you where I put the rest of these vining cucumbers. So on the back side right here, I planted vining cucumbers and watermelon. but I don't think the watermelon are going to take, so I didn't want to waste this space. So those cucumbers are already back here. Some of them just broke ground right there. And I just did that like 3 days ago. And they will come up and they will use this trellising system here. And that's where we will grow additional cucumbers. This is another one of those areas where those cucumber beetles kind of took over. And I cut all of those vines out, and I've planted additional cucumbers. You may not be able to see them, but they just broke ground right here. There's one on the other side and one just behind me here, so that this bed right here will take off, and this whole trellising system will be nothing but cucumbers. Now, there is one other cucumber that I planted here, the vining cucumber that I'm talking about. I also put a silver slicer in here. So the silver slicer will also grow with what I already have growing in this space here. So that's my cucumbers, and that's I think my third planting of cucumbers, because I planted cucumbers, I waited a few weeks, I planted a few more, and now we're in July and I just planted a few more. We have to keep that cucumber harvest coming. Not that I need any cucumbers. I still have probably a year's supply of pickles in my house, but not enough of those bread and butter pickles that my mom and my girls like. So we do need to do a little bit of pickling and canning this year. So let's talk about the next vegetable that I am planting seeds in July. In this space right here, y'all, I'm growing the only green beans that I have in my garden. Now, I have a few over at the neighbors, but we've had a really bad year of beans this year. I have plenty of wax beans. I have plenty of purple beans, but the rabbit took all of my green beans out this year. And so we planted more. I put some fencing around it so the rabbit wasn't able to get it. But these blooms right here, once they finally put beans on, will be the first green beans that I've had in my garden. So this is my only supply of green beans. Now, y'all know that's not enough. Even though I still have at least 6 months supply of beans from last year, we do want more for fresh eating, and we do want to can a few beans. So we are going to plant more beans in July for this year's crop. In this bed right here, I had already attempted to plant some Italian style beans, wide flat beans. These are called Roma 2, and I only got 3 beans that actually germinated from that pack of beans. So I've added more beans to this space. They're not going to be the wide flat bean, but at least there will be more green beans. So we planted some landrath beans. I planted those beans over the weekend, and we've had a ton of rain. Today is a Wednesday, and these beans are already starting to break the ground and they're starting to come up. So I know I got good germination on those beans. The landrath beans are a 55-day to harvest bean. So we still have plenty of time in my Ohio season to get beans from these plants before the frost comes. And just behind these cucumbers that I just showed you, I have 2 pots of green beans growing back there as well. They are just now starting to break the ground as well. So we will have beans in those 2 pots in addition to the ones I just showed you. Now, depending on your type of bean, it may be too late to start some beans this late in your season. It depends on when your first frost is coming. It depends on the type of bean as well. So make sure you look at how many days to harvest your beans will take, and consider that and when your first frost date will be coming. So for me, it's too late to start pole beans. So beans that climb, a more vining type bean, it's too late for me to plant those. Now, I do have 2 or 3 trying to grow in the garden. Let me show you. Now, in my trellis area here, this is where I like to grow my pole beans or my climbing beans. And again, the rabbit really liked beans earlier this season, and it took me out. I planted more, they took me out. I planted more, I put fencing up. So there's fencing up, and now I have a handful, and I do mean just a handful of beans that are just starting to climb. But I don't have any blooms yet. There's only a couple over here, but no blooms on these yet. So I may or may not have any pole beans this year. Now, pole beans are my preferred green bean. In past seasons, they gave me so many green beans that I really didn't need any bush beans. But this year, thanks to our wonderful little pet rabbit, the pole beans are way behind, but I think we will get a harvest. It's just not going to be a big harvest. So that's why we're supplementing with the landrath beans that we just talked about. Now, let's talk about the last item that I am planting in July in Ohio. Now, over the weekend, I harvested quite a few things. I harvested a ton of onion out of my garden, as well as turnip greens. I harvested a lot of stuff, and I gave them to a family friend. And so by harvesting all of that stuff, it opened up some space in my garden. So let me show you. In this bed right here, I had onion right in the front, and then I had turnip greens back here. So I harvested the onion, and I went ahead and transferred in a cabbage. And yes, cabbage is a cool season crop. It's technically out of season, and we're out of time for cool season crops. And I'm too early technically for a fall planting at this point in time, but I still had transplants, so I stuck one in, and I'm hoping it'll receive a little bit of shade from the things around it. And I have things to the west of me that'll protect it from that hot evening sun. So we will see if we can get away with that one cabbage. But right next to it, I was growing turnip greens right there. And we've been harvesting off of those turnip greens for a very, very long time. But I really wanted to give the turnips to Grandpa because Grandpa wants some turnips. So we pulled everything up, the turnips, the greens, and everything, and we are going to replant that space with more turnip greens. So purple top, white globe turnip greens will go back into this space beside me. Here's a picture of what that looks like. And yes, this is also more of a cool season crop. If it gets too hot, and I'm a little farther north, so I know I'm chancing this, but if it gets too hot, they'll go to seed. But we're going to try anyway. And these turnip greens are a 55-day to harvest green. So I am hoping that I can keep that turnip green harvest coming in this space here. And so I planted it up on Saturday, and they've already broken ground. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there are little green seedlings down there. And hopefully we can give it a little protection from the tomatoes behind it, from some of that heat, so we can get a harvest off of turnip greens out of season. And yes, I am chancing every time I try to plant lettuce and turnip greens and collard greens because they're cool season crops. But how many seeds come in a pack? These turnip greens come 5,000 seeds to the pack. 5,000. So if they don't come up, or if they go straight to seed, you know, I've lost, what, a couple hundred seeds out of 5,000. What do I have to lose trying to use this space to grow something that I know my family will enjoy? Y'all, look at this. Doesn't this squash look good? Oh my goodness, I got blooms everywhere. This is a yellow summer squash. I have little squash everywhere as well. It's healthy, it's happy, but not all my squash looks like this. Let me show you. So in this bed here, I had some yellow squash, I had some green zucchini, I have some Italian rib squash, and you can see they're already yellowing, they're already dying back. The squash vine borers has gotten into the roots of these plants, and it's really killing them off. One of the things that I try to do to prolong the life of my squash is when the stems get eaten up and they have all of the holes and everything in it from those squash vine borers, I will take extra soil and I will cover those roots up. So I did that here as well. And that let the plants continue to produce for a little while. But for me, that didn't last forever. So what I have done, I went ahead and planted another round of squash. So I've planted some more golden zucchini, some more summer crookneck squash, and some of the round squash. My Italian rib squash is still doing extremely well, and I'm still getting tons and tons of that. So I'm not worried too much about zucchini style squash or the green summer squash, we'll call it that way. So that's why I'm focusing more on yellow and specialty types of squash. Now I am planting these anywhere where I'm harvesting things and where there's space, right? Because squash needs a lot of room to grow. Where these are already looking pretty bad, I went ahead and planted a few seeds here. So when they break ground in this space here, I'm going to pull the other ones out and hopefully it'll go ahead and grow without too much worry of the squash vine borers killing it off before they ever produce. So this is one spot. In this bed here, I've been harvesting all of my onion out of this space here, which has opened up this bed. And so we don't lose growth of vegetables in this bed. I have already planted in this spot right here, as well as just behind me here. I've gone ahead and planted some yellow summer squash. Now it hasn't broken ground yet, but by the time it breaks ground, all of the onion that I have left in this bed, they will be out, giving the space needed for that squash to grow. That's it. That's everything that I am planting from seed in July. So yes, I am planting a few cool season crops with the turnip greens, but there's still plenty of time to harvest beans, your green beans, your purple beans, your yellow wax beans, plenty of time to get a harvest on those, as well as cucumbers, because if disease take a cucumber plant out, you want to make sure that you got another round coming in, because they can take you out overnight. One day you come in and everything look good, and then the next day you come back and the whole thing's wilted away. So always having that succession planning on those type things will ensure that you get a good harvest during your season. Same thing for your squash. Again, you can come one day and the whole thing will be gone. So keeping that succession planning going. And there's so many different types of cucumbers and so many different types of squash out there. Just find one that's an early harvest and you're still good to go for the season. But that's it for the day, y'all. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel, and I will always let you know what's going on at Kim's Cozy Corner. So until next time, and I hope there will be a next time that you hang out with me, Kim, at Kim's Cozy Corner. Bye.